When Maruti Suzuki launched the Swift Dzire exactly 10 years ago, many would have expected the compact sedan segment to be a mere flash in the pan. But Indian buyers have welcomed compact sedans with open arms, and in fact the segment has evolved to a point where the cars today are the highest sellers for the respective manufacturers. Well, the decade that has gone by has seen these cars get better, the competition has gotten stiffer, and of course, I have to say engineering has improved, and so have the design and the equipment list. Like these three here. The Dzire is the best seller for Maruti, while the Xcent is a strong performer for Hyundai, and the new Amaze has just been launched. It looks impressive, boasts a very good feature list, but can it take on these two stalwarts? Time to find out. Passenger cars probably don't get more mass market than compact sedans like these, but I really like how their designs have evolved. I have to give a big thumbs up to Maruti Suzuki for turning the Dzire into such a good looking car. The styling is a lot more cohesive now, and the stance is lower and sportier, which makes it look longer, while the curvy lines make it look very appealing from almost any angle. On the other hand, the new Amaze looks radically different, and the boot does not look like an afterthought anymore either. I also liked its front end, as the face reminds me of some of the 1990s American muscle cars, though the design has received mixed reactions overall. The Xcent is not as appealing as the other two cars here though, and if this were a beauty contest, the Hyundai wouldn't really make it to the final round. The Xcent's front end looks slightly weird thanks to the design of the grille and also the positioning of the LED daytime running lamps, while the rear end is not particularly attractive either. The Maruti Dzire then is the best looking car here. The interiors of the Honda Amaze are the most spacious in this comparison test, and that's also partly thanks to Honda's man maximum, machine minimum philosophy. I like how the windscreen sits further from the driver, while the part beige interiors, especially the seats and the roof, they accentuate the sense of airiness inside the cabin. The dashboard design in the new generation Amaze is very appealing and driver-centric, as controls are placed well within reach. Quality of plastics could have been slightly better though, as the plastics in the Amaze don't feel as premium as the Dzires or the Xcents. The top of the line VX version you see here gets a 7-inch touchscreen though, which does its bit in offering a premium feel. And while its cockpit might be more spacious than the Dzires, the Honda Amaze loses out to the Maruti by a small margin in terms of rear legroom and knee room. But the Amaze does not get rear air conditioning vents, which is a definite miss in this company. In terms of interior space, I think the Dzire is almost as spacious as the Amaze, if not as spacious. And that's also thanks to the fact that the interiors are again part black and part beige, which adds to the sense of airiness inside the cabin. And that's besides the fact that I think the Dzire seats are better. Well, they are comfortable and more accommodating than the Amaze seats, which are a little too soft, and the fit is also very snug. The Dzire's dashboard looks appealing, while the instrument cluster and flat bottom steering wheel look sporty. Touchscreen resolution and sensitivity in the Dzire is also the best of the lot, though the screen and its gloss black surrounds are a fingerprint magnet. Move to the rear, and it is easy to note that the Dzire has the most spacious rear bench of the three cars, as there's more legroom and knee room on offer here. In fact, the Dzire's combination of spaciousness, the airy feel, armrest and the rear air conditioning vents together make for the best backseat experience of the lot. When you compare the interiors of the three cars here, you realize quickly that the Xcent is the oldest car. It does not feel as spacious as the other two cars, and neither is the design of its dashboard or the interiors overall as appealing as the Amaze or the Dzire's interiors. The black and grey colour of the Xcent's cabin robs it of the airy feel the other two cars offer. What's more, the Xcent received a facelift just a little over a year ago, but the design already feels dated, as the other two cars look a lot more modern, both being new generation models unlike the Xcent. Its cabin layout thus feels drab in comparison. The Xcent also feels relatively cramped in comparison at the rear and loses out to the Dzire and the Amaze in terms of rear legroom and knee room. Thanks to the stiff competition in the segment, all three cars here boast impressive equipment levels. Large touchscreens for the infotainment systems, along with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity are common on the top variants, as is automatic climate control. All three cars also get keyless entry, engine start buttons, reverse cameras and rear parking sensors. The Dzire one-ups the Xcent and Amaze though, being the only car in this test to get LED projector beams and an auto-on function for the headlamps. The Honda Amaze has the biggest and most powerful engine in this comparison test, which is a 1.5-litre 4-cylinder diesel that offers 100 PS of power. This is definitely an advantage for the Amaze as it is the quickest accelerating car in this comparison test. And in typical Honda fashion, the engine feels smooth and refined, but it still sounds a bit clattery. Its performance may be brisk, but responses from Honda's 1.5-litre engine are slightly laid back as compared to the Dzire and the Xcent's motors. The engine in the Amaze is very tractable though, and driving at low speeds in higher gears is never a problem. Honda's 5-speed gearbox also echoes the same sentiment as shifts are positive and reassuring, but slightly rubbery in feel. Clearly, Honda has tweaked the powertrain to offer good fuel efficiency rather than please enthusiasts, and its fuel efficiency numbers confirm the same, as the new Honda Amaze was the most fuel efficient of the 3 cars in our tests. The Dzire is powered by a slightly smaller 1.3-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine that makes about 75 PS. Now, you might want to think that's a 25% deficit as compared to the Amaze, but the Dzire is also about 50 kilos lighter, which helps it make up somewhat for that power deficit. And that's besides the fact that the Desire's engine is more responsive as compared to the Amaze engine, and acceleration is quick. That said, the Desire's engine makes you wait longer for the turbo to spool up, but get past 2000 RPM and the engine is the sprightliest of the lot. The Dzire also has the best gearbox of the 3, which feels sporty to use thanks to the short throws and the way the gears slot in. All 3 engines are high on refinement, but the Desire's engine is the quietest of the 3. The gearbox and engine together help in making the Dzire more engaging to drive than the other 2, which is yet another advantage for the Maruti. The Hyundai Xcent has the smallest engine in this comparison test, which is a 3-cylinder 1.2-litre diesel motor. But it is as powerful as the Dzire and offers 75 PS, and it feels as sprightly as well, and acceleration is quick while the engine feels smooth and refined at all times. What's particularly impressive here is the fact that the Xcent's engine feels as smooth and as refined as the Amaze and Dzires, despite being a 3-pot motor, and does not have the typical thrum associated with 3-cylinder engines. Interestingly, the Xcent is also the quickest when it comes to in-gear acceleration, and it feels quicker than the Dzire and Amaze on this crucial front, though its power delivery is not as engaging as the Dzire. Its gearbox is not as engaging either, despite offering precise shifts, and on the whole, the Xcent feels slightly boring on the powertrain front, though many buyers do seem to appreciate its nature. The suspension setup in the Honda Amaze is softer than the other 2 cars, which makes for an excellent ride quality. Its bump absorption abilities are excellent, and ride quality is thus the best of the 3, but that ride quality comes at the expense of handling. The new Amaze feels slightly floaty at speeds as compared to the other 2, and there is a bit of body roll around corners as well. That said, its plush suspension will certainly help the Amaze win brownie points with buyers looking for a family car. The Amaze is also the quietest of the 3 going over bumps and potholes, as the suspension makes no noises even when going fast on bad roads. Its steering wheel feels heavier than the other 2 cars at crawling speeds though, which is a bit of an issue when maneuvering in tight parking spots. The steering does get lighter and reasonably responsive as you go faster though, but on the whole, the Amaze does not feel as engaging as the Dzire and is not exactly a driver's car. The suspension setup on the Dzire is slightly firmer as compared to the Amaze, but that does not affect its abilities to soak up bumps and potholes. That is an important feature here because I like the way the Dzire balances ride with handling, as it feels sporty while also offering a good ride quality. It feels engaging to drive on the highway, it feels very good around corners, planted, and this is, I think, the best driver's car in this comparison test, and the suspension definitely has a big role to play in that. The Desire's dynamics thus make for an engaging feel from behind the wheel, which makes it my favorite in this department. I also like the way the Dzire stays planted at high speeds, as its suspension soaks up undulations well, which in turn makes for a more likable experience on longer drives. What's more, the Dzire steering feels well balanced, as it does not call for too much effort at slow speeds and also offers good feedback when driving enthusiastically. The Desire's brakes could have been slightly sharper though, as the brakes in the Amaze and Xcent offer better bite and more feedback in comparison. In terms of ride and handling, I think the Xcent slots in right between the Dzire and the Amaze both. Now, it isn't as sporty as the Dzire, and the ride quality isn't as plush as the Amaze, where it soaks up bumps and undulations well, and while the handling is not exactly engaging, there is a confident feel at all times, be it on the highway when you're going fast or when you're going around corners. The Xcent suspension setup feels as good as the Dzire's in terms of soaking up bumps and potholes, but the Hyundai simply does not evoke the sporty feel from behind the wheel as the Maruti. Do not be mistaken, the Xcent's dynamics will not let you complain thanks to its confident feel at all times, and it has no trouble in bettering the Amaze in terms of handling, and that's courtesy its well-balanced suspension setup. It delivers the goods thus, but the Xcent will not delight enthusiasts the way the Dzire does. Another reason behind this is its steering, which feels rather vague in comparison and does not match the Maruti in terms of feedback. It's interesting to note how the compact sedan segment has evolved over the years. All three cars here are well engineered and are spec'd rather lavishly too. Well, if that's not confusing enough, pricing for all three cars is similar as well. That said, the Dzire is slightly more expensive as compared to the Xcent and the Amaze, but it is the best package here as well. And it's the packaging is what makes the Dzire the winner of this comparison test.